Greetings everybody, this is Emily from A Pages in Ink, and sorry that this video is so late. I could have done it earlier today, but I kind of put it off, and then my parents wanted to go to the movies and see Mockingjay Part 2, which I've already seen, but I just had to see it again. So it's a late video, and I'm sorry, but you do get 2 videos tomorrow, I think, possibly, maybe, because tomorrow is Wednesday, and that means Top 5 Wednesday. And it's also the day that I do Top 10 Books Read This Year. So you get 2 videos tomorrow. But for now, I'm going to be talking about the high fantasy books that I've read this past year for my Year in Books videos. If you haven't seen my other videos and you don't know what these videos are, it's me breaking down the last week in December, the last week of the year, into different genres of books that I have read this past year, and kind of review them, and yeah, so I have a list, and it's high fantasy, and high fantasy is one of my favorite genres to read. I don't really know why, I don't know what it is, but it's definitely one of my favorites to read. And so these are the books that I read this year that are part of the high fantasy genre. So let me reorganize these a little bit, because I put the first one on my list at the bottom and the last one on my list at the top. Alright, so the first book I had to talk about is Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. And also on this list, I guess I'll talk about them together, is the Grisha trilogy, also by Leigh Bardugo, obviously. These books are set in the same universe, but at different times. I want to say that she said that Six of Crows takes place about 30 years after the Grisha trilogy does. There are characters and events that are referenced in Six of Crows that happen in the Grisha trilogy, but they're not the same. They're not at the same time. They have nothing to really do with each other. So I'll start with Six of Crows and work my way back. Six of Crows is a story about kids that are a part of a gang on the island of Ketterdam, I believe. Hold on. I'll know it when I see it. No, Kerch. Well, Ketterdam and Kerch. Called the Dregs. Or the gang group thing is called the Dregs. And not the leader technically of the group, but like the right-hand man, the most well-known guy named Kaz Brekker, is given the mission, is hired to break into the most difficult to break into, the most impenetrable, that's what I wanted, prison called the Ice Court in Fjordha, which I will show you because these maps are beautiful, in Fjordha, which is up here. So they're to break in there and bring back a guy that's developing this thing for them, which kind of like enhances the powers of the Grisha, which are beings with kind of like magic power, and they're all there's different types. So in this book it's about a heist, and I did enjoy it, but it wasn't my favorite. It kind of seemed to take a while to build up, really, to the heist part. And there's a lot of backstory, to the point where I'm pretty sure if you took out all the backstory, this is what Six of Crows would look like instead of this. Like, this would all be backstory. But it's a really good read still. The cover's beautiful, and I'm really looking forward to the next book because I want to see what happens next. It was really weird because the ending seemed to kind of resolve, not like the ending, but like towards the end, things seemed resolved, and there's this odd plot twist that, of course, I didn't see coming because it seemed like everything was resolving itself. Sorry, my nose is kind of bothering me. But everything seemed to be resolving itself, and then suddenly this plot twist happens, and I'm like, what? But anyway, I'm looking forward to it. Then I have the Grisha trilogy, which takes like 30 years in the past. It takes place about 30 years in the past, I believe. And this follows a girl named Alina Starkov, who At first is just a map maker and what's known as the First Army. I think it's called the First Army, which is just the army of Ravka. And I will show you Ravka on the map. Ravka. And it turns out that she is actually a Grisha. And once they discover her power, they take her to the palace, and she is trained to be Grisha, to use her power, but she has a very rare power that nobody has seen, and I believe also acts as an amplifier. Not entirely sure. And she meets the leader of the Second Army, who's called the Darkling. And yeah, that's all I can really say. I also have Leigh Bardugo's autograph that my friend Pooja got for me at Y'all West. So, yeah. The Grisha trilogy is awesome. It's fantastic. It's wonderful. It's a great series, and I definitely recommend it. The world is so well done. The cultures are so different, and the magic is just it's awesome. So I would definitely recommend reading it. Alright, so that's those two. Next on the list, I have a book that I don't actually have, that I actually really want, and it's called Brightly Woven by Alexandra Bracken, who wrote the Darkest Mind series. I believe it was her debut novel, I think. I could be wrong. But it was a story written for a friend of hers, and it's about this girl who becomes the apprentice of a wizard, and kind of follows him on this journey to try to prevent a war. And it's really cute, and it's really good, and it's just awesome. And I really want it so bad. The world is actually pretty well built, in my opinion. There's this artisan town that's full of artisans, and the way it's described is just beautiful. I want to go there. It's a great book. It probably isn't her best work, written wise, because I think it's her first, or it was right after The Darkest Minds or something, but it's still a really good read, and it's actually it's not a happy story, but it's a brighter story than The Darkest Minds. So I definitely recommend that one. Next on my list is another book that I don't have, but I am currently reading the sequel to it, and that is The Young Elites, and the sequel to it is The Rose Society. These are by Mary Lou, and this follows the journey of a girl named something that's difficult. And she's known as the White Wolf because there's this disease that sweeps through the country and changes some people and kills others. And the people that change develop powers and are called elites. She's called the White Wolf because it changes her eyelash color and her hair, I believe. It drains her of color in a way. And her power has to do with the shadows and darkness. So it follows her journey trying to learn to use and control this power while also making friends among the Dagger Society. It took me a second. And also they're trying to stay hidden from the Inquisition something, which is the government's military that is after the elites. And I will say one thing, because I expected it to be something it wasn't. I was expecting it to be about, a group of kids that changed the world. And it's actually, and you can read this in the acknowledgments, it's actually a villain's story. So if that makes you want to read it even more than just the description, go right ahead and read it. It wasn't one of my favorites. I don't really know what it was exactly, but I am looking forward to read Rose Society, and I do recommend it as a read because it was a good story, and it's definitely unique in the idea that it's a villain story, because I haven't personally read a whole lot of those. So, yeah. Next on my list, I have Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. This is a Beauty and the Beast retelling that follows the young heroine, Feyre, who kills a fairy in the forest because it was in the form of like a deer, I think. And she kills it and brings it home to her poor family who lives in like this rundown cottage. And they sell some of it and they eat some of it and save some of it. And she doesn't really realize that it's a fairy until like the fairy lord comes and takes her, and his name is Tamlin. And it was kind of like a life for a life kind of thing. So he takes her to his palace to live. And she has to stay there in order for her family to be taken care of. And, you know, such as the Beauty and the Beast kind of thing. And there's also this weird mystery that surrounds them because all of the people in his like palace have masks on their face and they're like firmly fixed. And Tamlin has a bit of a temper that's kind of like Beast. What I like about this book compared to other retellings, I actually haven't read very many, but the others, Belle is known, or the Belle character is known as like a brainiac in a way. You know, Beauty and the Beast, she likes to read books, she wants adventure, and she's smart. And I'm not saying that Feyre isn't smart and doesn't want adventure, but instead of being a bookworm, she's an artist, and she likes to paint. And I think it's really awesome that they took that a different direction. Instead of, like, having her need books, instead they get her stuff to paint, and she paints stuff that are in the garden, and it's awesome. It's also not super, but it is really sexy. And so if you're ace, or just simply uncomfortable by the idea, I would be very cautious reading it. Because I am ace, and there's one point where I was like, alright, is there a way for me to skip this part? Oh, look. So, but it is a really good book. I did really enjoy it. I didn't like it as much as I thought, but now that I really think back on it, I think I like it more. It was just, I think I have a problem when books are really, really hyped, and I read them, and it kind of brings down my expectation, not brings down, it like brings up, I guess, my expectations. And when I read it, it doesn't seem as great as everyone else says that it does. And it's not like a spoiler thing, because I am fortunate enough that the people that I follow don't post spoilers, at least nothing big enough for me to be angry about. So it wasn't that. I think it was just people were like, oh my gosh, this thing and these people, and I'm like, where? But I will say that I really do like the character of Rhysand, or Rhysand, something. It says Rhysand in the back. Because Sarah J. Maas is awesome, and she puts pronunciations in the back of her books. Take her hint. Follow her lead, authors with weirdly pronounced names. Where is it? See, Rhysand. Or Rhys. Because R-Y-S is Rhys. So it's like Rhysand. Anyway, I do like his character, even though at one point he's kind of a douchebag. But it does get better. I partially wish that this book took more time to be in, what's it called? In the fairy realms, like up toward the top. Like, where is it? Or not fairy realms, in Prythian, this up here, this stuff. Because I think they go to the Night Court. And I kind of wish they spent just a little more time, because that was really, really interesting. And I don't really think... And it kind of pulls away from the Beauty and the Beast story a little bit. Now that I think about it, that actually kind of made it spectacular. But anyway, it's a good read. I do definitely recommend it. And I also recommend the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas, too, obviously. Because it's a great series that has a very strong female character that definitely has her faults. So she's definitely not a perfect character. And I do definitely recommend it. And you should definitely read it. I know a lot of people are hesitant to read it because so many people have read it and it's probably a little overhyped too. But there's a lot to like about the story, so I think you should at least give it a shot. If you think you're going to have trouble, I would find Assassin's Blade, which is like the novella collection that happens before the Throne of Glass series itself. Because it shows a lot of Celaena, the main character's backstory, and how she got to be where she is in the beginning of Throne of Glass. So you kind of learn more about her, and I kind of did it. I think I read Throne of Glass and then I read the novellas, and it definitely helped me to understand Celaena a lot better, as to why she is who she is and why some of her faults have, like, why they're there. So if you're really unsure, go ahead and do that. I got that for my cousin. I got Assassin's Blade for her before I got her Throne of Glass. And she hasn't actually read it yet. She's got like a long list now. I'm turning her into a bookworm. It's awesome. So hopefully she gets there soon and I can learn what she thinks. Next book I have on my list I got almost a year ago. Actually, that's actually been a year ago. And that is Snow Like Ashes by Sarah Rash. And I need Ice Like Fire. I got another copy of Winter from my aunt, and hopefully I can have a chance to go and trade it for Ice Like Fire. She's supposed to give me the receipt, but I don't think that's happening, so I'm probably just going to go in and be like, can I trade this in? I think it's like 30 days after Christmas or something. You're allowed to bring books into Barnes & Noble and trade them. But anyway. So, Snow Like Ashes follows the... Hold on, I forgot what her name is. It's been too long since I've read this. Follows Myra, and her group of survivors from the Kingdom of Winter, and their like battle in a way, and their journey to saving the Kingdom of Winter from the King of Spring, the King of the Kingdom of Spring, because he had, I think, stormed the kingdom and took hold of their what's it called? I totally forgot what it's called. But he steals their like magic artifact that gives them their magic and enslaves all of the people. So this group is trying to collect the pieces of the magical artifact that I can't think of what it's called, and tries to put it back together so they can get Winter's magic back and take back Winter. And it's a really good series. It's really good. I've only read this one, so I don't know what the rest of it is like, but this book was really good. I really enjoyed it. Sarah Rash is awesome, and she's really sweet, like when it comes to talking to her fans and like reblogging fan art. I see it all the time. I follow her on Tumblr, and she's a sweetheart, and she's fantastic, and you should totally check out her stuff. Next, I have a book that I really enjoyed. And it also made me super angry because the plot twist for the end just kind of like... Yeah, that happened. That was the wrong side, too. There we go. Right? Maybe it was... I don't know. Anyway. Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. I am so excited for Glass Sword. So excited. So excited, man. The story is fantastic. It follows the journey of a girl named Mare. By the way, I also have her autograph. Boom! Anyway, it follows the story of a girl named Mare Barrow, who lives in this kingdom where people with silver blood, or this world, where people with silver blood have like a special power. I hit my books. Has a special power. And because of this power, they are put into positions of like aristocracy and royalty, pretty much. And it turns out that even though Mare Barrow has red blood, she has a power. And they discover this pretty quick, and they kind of disguise her as a Silverblood from like a long lost family kind of thing, and it's to hide the fact that a red blood has power. They don't want their slave people believing that they could have power over the Silverbloods. And so it follows her and her journey through that, and actually has her engaged to one of his sons. And so it kind of follows that whole thing. And it's really good. And I can't wait for Glass Sword. I need it right now. I really need to reread this too because it was fantastic. Fantastic. I'm just going to put that over there. I try not to talk about love interests too much when I do this because I don't want unless it's a romance, largely, I don't want the idea of a romance to be the only thing that people may be interested in. There's a love triangle in that in a way. It's not a big one. It's really kind of teeny, but it's there. The last book I have to read, I don't know why it's not on my high fantasy list, but right before I shot this, I went and looked it up to see where the heck it went. But it's An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir, and it was incredible. It's about a girl named Laya, something like that, and her brother gets taken by the military, and she becomes a slave in the household of the commander-in-chief in a way, and the commander of the military, in order to help out a spy rogue rebellion group to not only obtain secrets, but in order to obtain secrets, they are willing to help her save her brother from the most well-guarded prisons that they have in this world. And it's really good. It's excellent storytelling, and a lot of the things that happen to her are really kind of awful, and you really start to feel for her, and you really want her to succeed in this. And you also see another character who is the love interest in a way, kind of, who is kind of rejecting this lifestyle because he doesn't want to be a killer. And they kind of sort of become friends in a way. And it's a great story. It's really good. So I pretty much recommend all of these because they're all excellent. They're all really interesting and really good. And I just love high fantasy. I have even more high fantasy over here. I think I actually only have 2. I think I have 2 or 3. I don't know if Scorpio Races is high fantasy. But I do have Fallen Kingdoms and Mistborn to read. So I have more high fantasies over here. So that is all I have for today. Sorry that this video was kind of long and ranty, and I hope you it's over on the side of my bow. And look forward to 2 videos tomorrow, or maybe 1. I really need to see what the topic is for next Wednesday. But you will at least have 1 tomorrow, and I will see you then. I love you guys. Goodbye.